And I started out browning some sirloin. Or you could do, even if you wanted to splurge, you could do tenderloin. But basically, I've got it cut in, little bite-sized pieces. And we got this pan really, really hot, and I'm browning it up in batches. So this is batch number 1. We started just a few minutes ago. And this is going to give this some great color. So about 2 pounds of beef, and if I were to put all that beef in this pan at the same time, it wouldn't get that nice color, wouldn't brown up. So a little bit of olive oil back into the pan, and definitely want to turn on your fan in the house. And then here goes the rest of that beef, the other pound. And this way it's going to get some nice color on it. Sirloin works great in this recipe because it's not real expensive, but it's nice and tender. So this doesn't have to be a long, low, and slow cook. If you wanted to, you could use a chuck roast, but that would be then something that you would cook all day and get that meat nice and tender. So this is actually pretty quick. I love that because sometimes you don't have all day. A lot of great flavor going on in this recipe too. So I just want to get a little color on that beef while it's doing its thing in that pan with that oil. A little bit of salt and pepper. This one's fun, I think, because everybody does the same ground beef chili, and sometimes you just want to do something different, especially if you're going to a chili party and everybody, which I think is a really great idea. We're all watching our pennies these days, so more and more people are entertaining at home, thinking of fun ideas. I love the idea of everybody bringing a different pot of chili in a slow cooker, and then everybody kind of tastes it. Maybe there's a prize. We actually do a big chili cook-off here at the station every year, and it's just a ton of fun. I think mine did pretty well last year. Come to think of it, I did a pork chili one time, and it was just delicious, a chili verde. Okay, so just getting a little bit of color on this beef. That looks perfect. And get it into a bowl. We're going to set it aside, almost like you're doing a stir fry. See that nice color? That nice color is nice flavor, and if we were to overcrowd the pan, you just wouldn't get that color. So it's a little bit of a pain to do this in batches, but it'll all pay off in the end. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit more oil to the pan, and I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit, and I'm going to saute some onion. I got a nice cup of diced onion here, and I just want that to get a little bit soft. Let that hang out and get those great drippings on the bottom, the brown little bits from that steak. It's going to mean lots of wonderful flavor. Okay, now we're going to spice things up, and we're not going to use a pre-packaged like chili pouch for this. We're going to make our own, and it's very, very easy to do. I've also got some flour in here, and this is going to thicken this and kind of, make it almost like a stew, just really delicious. So I've got a few tablespoons of flour. I've got 3 tablespoons of chili powder, 1 tablespoon of cumin, teaspoon or so of oregano, and a lot of people think oregano, that's Italian. Actually, oregano is used a lot in Mexican and Southwest cooking. If you can find Mexican oregano, even better, but regular oregano will work just fine. And some salt. So this is going to be our seasoning that's going to go over the beef, and with that flour in there, it's going to also thicken this up a little bit. Smells so good, and we're just getting started. Okay, I just want to check on my onion, which is starting to soften. Looking good. And I'm going to get to work on some garlic. All right, so I've got 3 or 4 nice big cloves of garlic. Doing some fresh garlic in here. And my way of doing it is just to take the big old knife and just give her a whack. It's going in it's going in chili, which is, soup or stew, so it doesn't have to be perfectly minced up. Perfect. Okay. Now, I've got a 30-second rule when it comes to fresh garlic. Fresh garlic can be wonderful and not so wonderful. It can make that not so wonderful turn after about 30 seconds. So what happens is into the pan it goes, And then you just move it around until you're just starting to get that wonderful garlic smell. And that's it. If you were to do it longer than that, it could burn and then just ruin the whole dish. Now we're going to throw our 2 pounds of ground beef right back in there with any juices that kind of have accumulated in the bowl. Those are good. Get those in there. Okay, now I'm going to take my flour mixture with the chili powder and the cumin and the oregano and the salt and really coat that beef. Stir it up, coat that beef. Now it's starting to smell like chili. It's starting to smell really good. And I just want to cook this for just a minute or two to get that, if there would be any sort of a floury taste, we don't want that in there. Oh man, Deb, how good does this smell?
It smells
wonderful. I know it. Yum. Okay, so I'm just going to let that hang out just for a minute or so, keep an eye on it, and get to work on opening my cans. As I mentioned, this is a steak and a black bean chili, so you're saying, well, where do the beans come in? They come in now. I've got 2 cans, 15-ounce cans of black beans. I do want to drain the liquid that's inside of that, though. So I'm going to open these cans. I like beans in my chili. I know some people don't, and I totally get that. My kids aren't real big fans, but I still make my chili with beans and make them pick it out. Sorry, kids. Beans are good for you. I don't know. I really like them in most chilies for sure. Okay, now, I just want to, this is perfect. That flour is just cooked for a little bit. I'm going to start adding some of the liquid. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of Mexican beer. I think that would be kind of fun. You don't have to. Really works nicely in this chili. Any kind of beer would do, but if you don't want to cook with beer, not a big deal. You can just add some beef stock. So 1 bottle of, this happens to be Dos Equis beer. It's kind of a darker, richer Mexican beer, but any kind of beer would work. Get that in there. And most of the alcohol is going to cook right out of this. Just going to be left with some great flavor. Now we've got some beef stock. And we also have 1 jar of your favorite salsa. We're using a chunky salsa. If you really want it spicy, you could do a hot, in between, medium. I always go for mild because then people can just spice it up, with the fixings bar. That way you kind of play it safe. And I think that's a good idea when you're having a party. Okay, so 1 jar of that salsa, get that in there. And then, my little trick, you've seen me do this before, just a teeny bit of water into a spaghetti sauce jar. And maybe you do this already, but just gets every little bit of that out there and gets it ready for the recycling bin. Great. Thank you, Deb. Okay, I'm going to get that in there. Now I'm going to add some beef broth, really crank up the beef flavor. So I'm going to start out with a couple cups. I'm just going to eyeball it. Love to use the box stock because then if there's any left over, it just, you put the little cap on and you can use it another time. Keeps for about a week or so in your fridge. And then another thing, when I'm doing, a lot of beef recipes, making beef soups and stews and things like that, to really bump up that beef flavor is a dash or 2 or 3 of Worcestershire sauce. Just kind of brings out that wonderful beefy flavor. Season with a little bit more salt and pepper. Always season as you go. You can't really salt a soup or stew at the end. It just doesn't work out. So you saw me season the beef, and then there was a little salt in that flour mixture. And then a little bit now, and then, taste at the end. So I want to bring this to a simmer now, and I'm going to add my beans. I just want to give them a drain. So you can see how quick to cook this is. Because that beef was nice and tender anyway, it doesn't need to cook for hours and hours and break down. It's already there. It's always kind of a funky liquid in canned beans. And, in some recipes it's okay. But most of the time, I will drain that liquid. And I'm not going to worry about rinsing the beans because they're going in chili. If I were using the beans in like a salad or something like that, then, you don't want any of that liquid. But as long as we get rid of most of the liquid, it's good. So no need to rinse them for this recipe. I love black beans, something I don't have a lot of, and I really like them. All right, can 1. Pan number 2, and we're about ready to serve this up. I mean, it's that quick and that easy. And then just, you know, if you want a little bit more, if this continues to cook for a little bit and you notice that a lot of the liquid absorbs, feel free to add a little bit more beef stock or even a little bit of water. But there you go. I told you that was a quick cook, and it is delicious and just a different chili recipe, and I'm always looking for new and different chili recipes. So it's my beef and black bean chili, and then I like to serve this with a little bit of fresh lime juice just squeezed on top. It really works well with the beef and the black beans. Kind of the same idea as when you order fajitas at a restaurant and they squeeze a little lime juice over the steak before, you know, right as they're bringing that platter to you. Same idea. Doesn't this look fabulous? Just get a hint of that beer flavor in there. All that steak. This is a fun one. And, you know, serve it with chips. Later we're going to make some wonderful homemade cornbread. A little bit of that lime. This would be on your fixin' bar. And then maybe a little bit of sour cream just to cool things off. I love sour cream on my chili. I just do. And maybe some fresh cilantro or some scallions. And there you go. It's my steak and black bean chili recipes at our website. You can also pick it up at any Festival Foods. Yum. Enjoy.